She drew some blood from her body, sprayed a little on the cabinet, then poured the rest of the blood on the floor and spread it evenly, then faked drag marks, and finally wiped the blood surface with paper towels. In this way, the police can see a complete crime scene when conducting fluorescence tests. Of course, the murder was indispensable for the murder. The blood-stained iron rod was hidden deep in the fireplace. The most important thing was to prepare a perfect motive for the crime. She first deliberately became best friends with her neighbor and kept mentioning her husband's bad temper while chatting. Then she secretly maxed out her credit card and created a family financial crisis. She then bought a high-value life insurance in her husband's name, and the evidence chain for killing his wife and defrauding insurance was completed. But why on earth did she want to accuse her husband of being a murderer? 5 years ago, Amy and Nick fell in love at first sight at a party and quickly got married. However, married life was not as sweet as imagined. After the short-term passion, Nick's habit of being lazy gradually emerged. The economic depression forced him to stay out of work, but he still spent money lavishly. The two began to quarrel non-stop, and Nick also went out to fool around behind Amy's back, which caused a crisis in his relationship. Even so, Amy still tried to save their marriage. She felt that maybe having a child would get everything back on track, but Nick didn't think so. The discussion escalated into a quarrel again. Nick got emotional and actually pushed Amy down. At this moment, Amy was completely disappointed, so she decided to teach Nick a lesson. That day Nick was having fun in a bar when a neighbor called to tell him to go home quickly. When Nick returned home, he saw that the living room was in a mess and Amy was missing. He sensed something was wrong and immediately called the police. Police made a cursory inspection of the scene and soon discovered blood on the edge of the cupboard. In view of this discovery, Nick was taken to the police station for DNA sampling and archiving, and the villa was temporarily sealed, so he could only stay at his sister's house. The police immediately launched a second search and found a mysterious envelope in Amy's closet with Clue 1 written on it. They summoned Nick to the police station and asked what the letter meant. Nick explained that this was a scavenger hunt prepared by Amy for the anniversary, and that Amy would leave clues to enhance the relationship between the couple. He opened the envelope, quickly cracked the answer, and then led the police to his school. In the office, Clue 2 was found, which pointed to a brown cabin. While he was concentrating on solving the problem, the police discovered another clue. The policeman looked meaningfully at Nick putting the red underwear into his political bag, and then asked where the brown hut was. Nick said he didn't know, but turned around and came to the cabin and found Clue 3. Little did he know that the police had been following him. Faced with questioning, Nick first hid the envelope and said that this was the house left by his father, and that he was only here for regular inspections, and that the exterior wall of the house was blue, which did not match the clues in the envelope. But in fact, Nick gave his father the nickname Mr. Brown, which is the same word as brown in English. However, only the couple knew about this, so he was able to escape again. On the other side, Amy, who has disappeared, will continue to promote the next plan. The woman invites the pregnant woman home and drains the toilet tank in advance to collect urine so that she can fake evidence of her pregnancy. In order to prove her husband's motive for killing his wife, Amy took the time to write 300 diaries, from fairy tale love to the current threat of domestic violence, in which many exaggerated details were made up. Finally, he put the diary in the fireplace and burned it until it was just right, waiting for the police to find it. After arranging everything, Amy completely disappeared. Amy's family held a press conference, hoping to find clues about Amy's disappearance through the power of the media. As a husband, Nick naturally could not be absent. He looked sad throughout the process, but he laughed inexplicably when reporters took pictures. At the reception banquet that followed, he was still in an abnormal state. Not only did he warmly receive the guests, he also kept smiling and took photos with other women. Soon the photos were circulating online. Faced with media doubts and criticism, even my sister's trust in Nick has been shaken. Therefore, Nick had to express his thoughts and love in public at the next press conference. He wanted to use this to change the direction of public opinion and prove himself. But at this moment, the neighbor suddenly appeared and loudly reprimanded Nick for domestic violence against his pregnant wife.
Amy was 6 weeks pregnant!
As soon as these words came out, the crowd at the scene began to riot. Domestic violence against a pregnant woman was an unforgivable crime. Reporters swarmed in, and Nick was unable to defend himself and fled in a hurry. The police came over and asked Nick if he knew Amy was pregnant, but Nick said that the woman just now was talking nonsense and that she didn't know Amy at all. The police dumped a stack of photos showing the neighbor and Amy being very close.
It certainly doesn't prove she's pregnant.
The police said that medical records were sent immediately, and they also told Nick that a large amount of blood was detected in the kitchen. It was not visible on the surface, but someone had obviously cleaned the scene.
Blood and no body suggests homicide. It tells us to look at people inside the house, which is what we're doing here, Nick.
The police turned over the credit card record, which showed that Nick had recently purchased a large number of luxury goods, followed by Amy's insurance policy. The beneficiary column of the huge policy turned out to be Nick's autograph. At this time, the hospital called and confirmed the news of Amy's pregnancy. All clues seemed to point to Nick killing his wife and defrauding her of the bail, but the evidence chain was not complete and the police could not arrest the person on the spot. After the police left, Nick took out the Clue 3 he had hidden in advance, found the wooden warehouse mentioned in it, and opened the door. He was stunned. All the luxury goods purchased on the credit card were piled here. Once discovered by the police, he would not be able to explain. At this moment, Amy's frame-up plan will also come to an end. In order to frame her husband, the domestically violent woman raised a hammer and hit her face hard. She completely changed her appearance and hid in a strange city. So far, Amy's plan is going smoothly. Unexpectedly, the new neighbors are not good people. They find that Amy spends a lot of money, but her hair is dyed and her glasses are fake. She is obviously trying to avoid something. They concluded that Amy would not call the police, so they came to rob the house and looted all the belongings. At this time, the penniless Amy had nowhere to go. She suddenly remembered her rich ex-boyfriend and immediately called him to meet him. Amy squeezed out tears and tried her best to pretend to be pitiful. The ex-boyfriend happened to have an old crush on Amy, so he immediately took Amy back to the mansion. The reason why the two broke up in the first place was because their ex-boyfriend was a control freak.
There are cameras everywhere, and I am not letting you get away again.
Now that he was living under someone else's roof, Amy had to feel sorry for himself, but as time went by, he began to get tired of this imprisoned life. On the other side, Nick was still worried about his innocence. He knew that Amy must not be dead, so based on the lawyer's advice, he took the initiative to come to the TV station, admitted his past bastard behavior, showed endless regret, and prayed for Amy's death. Emi's forgiveness. This true revelation made Amy in front of the TV unable to help but feel moved. She felt that her love was back, but she needed to make new plans if she wanted to return to Nick. The next day, Amy took the initiative to show her kindness to her ex-boyfriend, deliberately biting her lips, ruffling her hair, and letting the camera capture her disheveled. After the people left, Amy tied herself with cloth strips, soaked her pajamas in red wine to disguise the blood stains, and then deliberately exposed herself to surveillance, pretending to be abused. When her ex-boyfriend came home at night, Amy showed up again, looking for an opportunity to slit his throat. The next day, she appeared at the door of her home covered in blood, and weakly threw herself into Nick's arms in front of reporters. She told the police how she was imprisoned by her ex-boyfriend and tortured for a month before she finally found a chance to escape. Facing the police's questions, the excuse she made up was impeccable. After some confusion, the evidence that originally pointed to Nick all pointed to her ex-boyfriend. Amy eventually betrayed self-defense, was acquitted, and showed love to Nick in front of the camera. Although public opinion has now reversed, Nick does not believe Amy's words. He knows that Amy has killed someone, so he wants to expose the truth and completely distance himself from Amy. As everyone knows, Amy was well prepared. She told Nick that she was really pregnant and had successfully carried out artificial insemination through Nick's frozen genes. If Nick chooses to divorce, he will be criticized again and become a scumbag despised by everyone. In the end, Nick chose to compromise and continue to maintain a marriage in name only with Amy.